Welcome back to The Heat. We're discussing the deadly Ebola epidemic that has resulted in over 900 deaths in West Africa. Joining me now from Minneapolis, Minnesota, is Dr. Thomas Cairns. He fell ill with Ebola-like symptoms while working in Africa during the 1970s and survived. Welcome to the show, sir. You contracted Ebola in 1972. What happened?
Well, I had been doing an autopsy on a patient who arrived at our mission hospital, basically dead on arrival. And in so doing, I pricked my finger with a scalpel. 12 days later, I became acutely ill and very, very severe flu-like symptoms, much worse than the worst imaginable flu you might otherwise experience. And that's basically what happened there in 1972.
Now, at that time, was there anything known about the disease? I mean, did you know what you had?
Not at all. We had no idea what it was. We were conjecturing it might be something like Lassa fever or Marburg fever, which were known diseases back then, but neither of those panned out. And so it went 4 years before we actually found out what it was, because Ebola was an unknown disease at that time.
So you got all these symptoms, and they must have been pretty frightening. So how were you treated?
Yeah. Well, that was a big problem, because this is a very remote bush hospital. We had IVs that we manufactured ourselves, and they gave them to me. They gave me an antibiotic, thinking maybe it might be helpful. They certainly gave me aspirin, which now in retrospect we know is not a good idea. But somehow or another, through all of that, plus a lot of prayer, I survived the disease. I was critically ill for 2 weeks, basically in a stupor, and then for many weeks afterwards, slowly, gradually recovering, regaining the 20 pounds I lost, and gradually getting strength back.
Right, you survived, but we're finding now that 90%, up to 90% of people who get the disease are dying from it. I mean, why is it so fatal?
That's it. Well, it basically attacks every organ in the body, every organ system. People die of renal failure or liver failure. The brain is attacked. Everything is attacked. And so the only hope is very, very high quality supportive care. That's how it would be with people even now today. Really high-quality supportive care, because until the things that have gone on this week with this so-called secret serum and all that, there has been no drug available.
Now, you got it in 1972, as you've just pointed out to us. Very little was known about the disease at that time. In fact, it didn't even have a name. So how would you how would you assess the progress that's been made, all these years later in trying to counter the disease?
Well, in a way, I'm disappointed that it's taken this long to get make progress on it. There have been numerous attempts at developing a vaccine. One of the great issues is that there hasn't been funding, there haven't been countries, there haven't been pharmaceutical houses willing to develop drugs, do the research and development necessary in order to develop a vaccine or a drug for it. Largely because if you total up the total number of people who have died of it, it's still only a few thousand people over the decades. And so there hasn't been that much interest in a disease that really has only been in Africa. So now that we have the possibility that this is going to other countries, suddenly it's attracting more attention, and I'm very hopeful that we'll see some more progress.
Right, it's been more than 40 years since you got the disease and survived it. Do you still have any kinds of after effects? Do you feel anything at all?
No, no after effects whatever. I was completely cured of it after, let's say, 3 or 4 months. I had developed my strength, I got back to normal work in the hospital, and I have had a substantial career since then without any residuals that we're aware of.
Dr. Thomas Cairns, thanks for joining us, sir. And that is it for this edition of The Heat. We'd love to hear from you, so please send us your questions, comments, and story ideas to theheat@cctv-america.com. And we'd like to continue the conversation on social media. Give us your thoughts and comments on our Facebook page, that's CCTV America, I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C. Thanks for being with us.